My wife cheated on me with our neighbor, and now she's claiming I owe her $250, $0 in marital debts to hide her affair. Our house and savings are in dispute, and I just found out the truth last night. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing this out, but here we are. The most unexpected moment hit me like a freight train. I walked into our bedroom last week and found my wife, Jessica, in bed with our neighbor, Todd. Just like that, everything I thought I knew about my marriage shattered. It wasn't just a quick fling or a drunken mistake. It was a full-blown affair, and I caught them red-handed. I still can't believe how quickly my world turned upside down. Jessica has always been the kind of woman who could charm her way out of anything, even her own mistakes. She's manipulative, bitchy sometimes, but I loved her, or at least I thought I did. We'd been married for nearly 10 years. Houses, cars, savings, everything we worked for. We had plans, dreams, a future, or so I thought. But over the last few months, I started noticing little things. Her phone always face down, late nights. Working, her sudden interest in new clothes, and her dismissive attitude whenever I brought up our finances or future plans. I brushed it off initially, thinking maybe she was just stressed or busy with work. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Then came the night I decided to check her phone. I'd never done that before, but something about her recent behavior pushed me over the edge. I grabbed her phone from the charger on the nightstand while she was in the shower. I just wanted to see if she was hiding something, and what I found made my stomach drop. There were dozens of messages with Todd, flirty, suggestive, explicit. They talked about meeting up, sneaking around, and how much they wanted each other. I saw pictures, too, Jessica in bed with Todd, her hand on his chest, their faces close. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. It was like a punch to the face, a betrayal so deep I couldn't breathe. I didn't wake her up that night. Instead, I stayed awake, staring at her phone, trying to process what I'd seen. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Was it just sex, or was there something more? Was she planning to leave me? All these questions haunted me, but I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending. I needed answers fast. The next morning, I confronted Jessica as she was making coffee. I told her I knew about her affair. Her reaction was immediate. She spun this wild story about how I was paranoid, how Todd was just a friend, and how I was overreacting. She called me insecure, jealous, and said I was imagining things. She even had the nerve to say it was all my fault because I'd been working too much or not paying enough attention. She said she loved me, but she needed something else. She claimed that she was just lonely. I could see right through her bullshit, but I was furious. How could she lie like that? How could she deny what I'd seen with my own eyes? The emotional impact hit me hard. I felt betrayed, humiliated, angry, and utterly heartbroken. I'd trusted her, invested in our life together, and now I was left with a huge mess. I kept replaying that image of her in bed with Todd. Her face so relaxed, so at ease. It made me question everything, our marriage, her feelings, my own worth. I wanted to scream, to cry, to do something destructive, but I held it all in. I knew I had to stay calm, to think clearly. But honestly, I was just trying not to lose my mind. How could she do this? How could she lie so convincingly? And more than anything, I wondered how I was supposed to move forward from this. After that confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and the house felt like a trap. Jessica kept insisting she was sorry, crying crocodile tears, claiming she made a mistake, that it was just a one-time thing, that she loved me and didn't want to lose everything we built. But her words sounded hollow. I'd heard it all before, and now I knew better than to trust her apologies. I started digging into our finances. I needed to know what she'd been hiding. Our bank accounts, credit cards, investments, anything that could give me clues about what she was up to. That's when I found out she'd been secretly draining our savings. Over the last 6 months, she'd transferred thousands of dollars into accounts I didn't recognize. I also found out she'd been making payments to Todd, clearly covering their expenses, flights, hotel stays, dinners. And she had the nerve to claim she was doing marital debt repayment, saying I owed her money for all sorts of supposed expenses I'd never heard of. That's when I realized Jessica was spinning a web of lies. She was trying to cover her tracks, but the money trail told the real story. She was using our joint account to fund her affair, and now she was trying to manipulate me into thinking I owed her money, that she had some kind of marital debt that justified her betrayal. I couldn't believe how far she was willing to go to hide her tracks. She even claimed that I was responsible for her cheating because I was absent emotionally or not attentive enough. That was her excuse, her way to deflect blame and make me feel guilty. I started to get angry, really angry. Not just at her, but at myself for trusting her for so long. I thought about all the moments I'd overlooked, the late nights she'd lied about, the way she'd dismissed my concerns. I had been blind, and now I was paying the price. The betrayal cut deep, but what made it worse was her continued denial, her lying, and her attempts to turn the tables on me. I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. My mind was racing. I had to come up with a plan, one that would make her regret what she'd done. I knew I couldn't just leave or get a divorce immediately. That wouldn't be enough. She needed to understand that her actions had consequences. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be the fool she thought I was. I needed to fight back, but carefully. I'd been gathering evidence, screenshots of her messages, bank statements, everything I could find. I wanted her to realize I was serious, that I wasn't going to let her get away with this without a cost. The more I learned, the more I realized how deeply she'd betrayed me, not just emotionally, but financially too. She was trying to keep me in the dark, to make me think I owed her something. But I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I knew I had to act, and I had to do it fast, because if I didn't, she'd keep lying, keep hiding, and I'd be left with nothing. I had to take control of the situation, even if it meant risking everything I thought I knew about my marriage. I started drafting a plan, one that involved confronting her again, but this time with evidence and a clear head. I wanted to expose her lies, make her see I wasn't going to be played. I also contacted a lawyer, just to get some advice on how to protect what's mine, especially since she kept claiming I owed her money. I told myself I'd fight for my house, my savings, and my dignity. I wasn't going down without a fight. Jessica might have thought she could manipulate me, but she'd underestimated how far I was willing to go to get the truth out in the open. I spent the next couple of days locked in a whirlwind of planning and gathering more evidence. Every time Jessica left the house, I'd sneak into her emails and messages, trying to find more proof of her lies. I knew I had to be careful. If she caught me snooping again, she'd just cover her tracks better. But I also knew I couldn't just sit on this information. I had to do something, and soon. One morning, I found a message she'd sent to Todd that confirmed what I suspected, that this affair was more than just a fling. They'd been planning to run away together, or at least that's what her words suggested. She talked about how she'd finally leave me, how she'd start a new life with Todd. It hit me like a freight train all over again. I'd married a woman who was willing to throw everything away, my house, our savings, our life, for some guy next door. I also learned that Jessica had been secretly working on a divorce settlement that she insisted I owed her $250,000 in so-called marital debts. She claimed I owed her for the house, the savings, her lost opportunities because I'd been so absent. She spun this elaborate story about how I'd ruined her life, and now she was just trying to get what she thought she deserved. The audacity! I couldn't believe how she was trying to manipulate everything, even trying to pin her infidelity on me. That night, I decided I'd had enough. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I arranged to meet with a lawyer I found through a friend, someone who specialized in divorce and financial disputes. I wanted to know what my options were, what I could do to protect myself. The lawyer listened carefully, then told me I had a solid case to fight for the house and savings. She also said I could challenge the marital debt claim, especially since most of the money Jessica was trying to pin on me was actually hers, money she'd been siphoning off and hiding. But I knew I couldn't just confront Jessica with the lawyer's advice. I had to do it smart. So I planned my next move carefully. I told her I wanted to sit down and talk, that I was ready to hear her out truthfully. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be played anymore, that I had evidence and a plan. I told her I'd give her a chance to come clean, but if she lied again or tried to manipulate me, I'd take legal action and expose everything. The confrontation happened the next evening. Jessica was surprisingly calm at first, almost smug. She sat across from me, crossing her arms, and tried to deny everything. She said she was just stressed, that Todd meant nothing, that I was overreacting. Then I pulled out the messages, the bank statements, the proof of her plans to run away with Todd. Her face changed instantly, shock, then anger, then panic. She started yelling, calling me crazy, accusing me of spying, of ruining her life. She even claimed I was the one cheating, that I'd been unfaithful all along. I just looked at her and said, "No, Jessica. I found out the truth. You've been lying, cheating, and trying to steal from me, and I've got enough evidence to prove it." She lost her temper then, started screaming, calling me all kinds of names, saying I was a jealous, insecure husband who didn't deserve her. But I didn't care anymore. I was done listening to her lies. I told her I was filing for divorce, fighting for the house, and challenging her claims about the debts. I also warned her that I'd be reporting her to the bank and the authorities if I found out she'd been stealing or hiding money. That night, I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. Relief that I finally knew the truth, and anger that I'd let her manipulate me for so long. I was prepared to fight for what was mine, and I was done being a victim. Jessica's reaction told me she knew she was losing control. She kept insisting she was the victim, that I owed her something, that she'd ruin me if I tried to take everything away. But I knew better now. I'd seen her true colors, and I was ready to face whatever came next. I realized that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. But I also learned that sometimes you have to take control, face the betrayal head-on, and fight for your own future. I wasn't going to let her lie her way out of this. Not anymore. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations, phone calls, and planning. I couldn't sleep well. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smug look she had when she thought she was still in control. Jessica kept trying to call me, text me, even show up at the house, but I blocked her number and told her I needed space. I wanted her to realize that I was serious. This wasn't some petty fight. I was about to take everything she'd been trying to manipulate away from her. I got a court date scheduled about the house and the finances. The lawyer explained that since I could prove she'd been siphoning funds illegally and hiding assets, I had a good chance of securing the house and savings for myself. The marital debt she was claiming was laughable. I knew she was trying to spin it as some kind of justified repayment, but it was clear she was just trying to cover her tracks, use her debts as a bargaining chip, and keep me from taking what was rightfully mine. Meanwhile, Jessica started to escalate her lies. She claimed I was abusive, that I was threatening her, that I was trying to ruin her reputation. She even told mutual friends I'd been cheating on her, which was laughable. She was the one sneaking around with Todd. I knew she was trying to turn everyone against me, to make herself look innocent and pitiful. But I didn't care about her lies anymore. I had the evidence, the legal backing, and the truth. One afternoon, she showed up unexpectedly at my office, her face flushed with anger and desperation. She tried to guilt-trip me, saying I was ruining her life, that I was a terrible husband who didn't deserve her. She said I'd never find anyone who loved me like she did, that I was just jealous and possessive. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I'd had enough, that I was done being manipulated, that I'd rather be alone than with someone who lied and cheated on me. I told her I was going to fight for my house, my money, and my dignity. She stormed out of the office, screaming and cursing, but I felt a strange calm, like I'd finally taken control of the situation. That night, I sat down and went through all the evidence I'd accumulated. I made a detailed timeline of her lies, her affair with Todd, her financial manipulations. I also started drafting a plan for the divorce, knowing I'd need to be strategic. I wasn't just fighting for the house anymore. I was fighting to reclaim my life from a woman who had betrayed me in every way possible. The betrayal cut deep, but I was determined to come out of this stronger. I also contacted a private investigator to look into her financial dealings more thoroughly. I wanted to make sure I had every detail, every hidden account or asset she might be hiding. If she thought she could manipulate her way out of this, she was dead wrong. I was ready to go all the way, no matter what it took, to protect what was mine. I kept thinking about how she'd spun her lies, how she'd tried to make me the villain, but I knew the truth was on my side. And I was going to make sure everyone knew it, especially the court. Looking back, I realize how naive I'd been to trust her for so long. But the real lesson here is that sometimes, the person you love can turn out to be the biggest liar and manipulator. And when that happens, you have to fight, not just for your money or your house, but for your dignity and your sanity. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting closer. The road ahead is long, but at least now I know I'm not alone in this. And I'll be damned if I let her get away with destroying everything I worked for. The court date finally arrived, and I was more prepared than I'd ever been. I had all the evidence laid out, screenshots of her texts, bank statements showing her secret transfers, the emails where she openly discussed her plans with Todd. I walked into that courtroom with a mixture of anger and relief, knowing I was finally going to get some clarity and hopefully justice. Jessica showed up, her face painted with that fake, bitchy smile she always put on when she was trying to manipulate everyone. She tried her usual tactics, crying, claiming she was the victim, saying I was ruining her life. But I wasn't having it. The lawyer and the judge saw through her lies. I explained everything, the affair, her financial deception, her attempt to pin debts on me. I presented all my evidence, and it was clear I had a strong case. The judge listened carefully and then made a ruling that stunned Jessica. The house and the savings, which she had been claiming I owed her for, were awarded to me. The court found that she'd been hiding assets and misappropriating funds, and her marital debt claim was dismissed. The judge also ordered her to pay restitution for the money she'd stolen and to cover legal costs. Jessica's face went pale, her bitchy mask cracking just a little, revealing her panic. She tried to argue, to spin more lies, but the judge wasn't buying it. That moment felt like a huge win, but it didn't erase the pain. Jessica's reaction was pure rage. She yelled at me, called me every name in the book, and accused me of ruining her life. Honestly, I didn't care anymore. The damage was done, and I'd finally exposed her for what she was. I could see her for who she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd lied her way through our entire marriage. After the court session, I felt a strange sense of relief, but also exhaustion. I knew this wasn't the end, that she'd try to fight me in other ways. But I was ready. I had the legal backing, the evidence, and the truth on my side. I started making arrangements to move out of the house, to start fresh somewhere new, away from her lies and betrayal. I also planned to cut all ties with her financial manipulations, closing accounts, freezing assets, and making sure she couldn't steal or hide anything else. Jessica's final attempt to manipulate me was to show up at my new place, begging, crying, trying to guilt-trip me into taking her back. She claimed she was sorry, that she'd changed, that she'd stopped seeing Todd. But I saw through her. I told her she'd burned that bridge long ago, that I was done with her lies. I told her she could go to hell, and I meant it. I realized I'd spent so much time trying to fix what was broken, but some betrayals are too deep to repair. Sometimes, the only way forward is to cut your losses and walk away. Now, I'm in the process of rebuilding my life. I've found a new place, started working on my own financial stability, and I'm slowly healing from the emotional wounds. I still think about Jessica sometimes, about the woman I loved and trusted, who turned out to be someone I barely recognize now. But I've learned a lot from this experience, mainly that trust is fragile and betrayal can come from the people you least expect. I also learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply reclaiming your life and moving on stronger than before. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone reading this, it's this. Don't ignore the signs, don't let yourself be manipulated, and never stay in a situation where your partner is lying and cheating while trying to drain your resources. Protect yourself, fight for what's yours, and never be afraid to walk away from someone who doesn't deserve you. Life's too short to waste on betrayal and lies. I'm finally starting to believe that better days are ahead, even after all of this. Looking back now, I realize how much I was blinded by love and trust. I always thought Jessica was my partner, my best friend, the woman I'd spend my life with. But beneath that veneer was someone capable of manipulation, lies, and betrayal on a scale I never saw coming. The whole ordeal has left me more cautious, more guarded, yet also more determined to rebuild what was broken. Going through the court case, dealing with her constant accusations and fighting to protect what was mine was exhausting, but it also forced me to confront a lot about myself. I learned that sometimes you have to take control, even when everything seems to be falling apart. I learned that the truth has a way of coming out, no matter how much someone tries to hide it. And most importantly, I learned that revenge isn't about hurting someone else. It's about reclaiming your own dignity and peace. Now, I'm starting fresh. I've moved into a new place, cut ties with Jessica completely, and I'm focusing on rebuilding my life on my own terms. I still feel the sting of betrayal, but I also feel a sense of relief, like I finally took the power back. I don't regret the pain, because it taught me a hard but valuable lesson. Never ignore the signs, never let someone manipulate you, and always stand up for yourself. To anyone out there going through something similar, I'd say this: trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the people you least expect. Stay vigilant, protect your heart and your resources, and don't be afraid to walk away if you have to. Sometimes, the only way to truly move on is to cut out the toxicity and start over. It's not easy, but it's worth it. I'm finally at the beginning of a new chapter, and honestly, I'm looking forward to what's next.